Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence. How are you? Big mahalo for tuning in. Today, we have a very special guest on the line. One of three we'll have from a well-known British band credited with many things over the year. They've mixed superb musicianship with complex arrangements, thoughtful lyrics, and a forward-thinking sound that's earned them a reputation as a progressive, artsy rock band, a pioneer of so-called prog rock. They've gone way beyond the limits of the label, songs that have made it to be radio staples, whether long or short, as well as diving into album-side epics and even collaborating right here in Honolulu with our own symphony orchestra back in 2003 at the Blaisdell Arena. They're back with their latest incarnation April 27th, Blaisdell Concert Hall, April 29th at the MAC. My guest, considered one of the all-time greatest bass players. I've seen him work his magic live many times, but it's a pleasure to finally speak with him and welcome the great Chirs Squire of Yes. Aloha and mahalo, Brother Chris. Thank you for doing this.
Nice to be here. Thanks.
We really appreciate it. And before we get into your band's return, long-awaited return, I might add, what's your own history, as you can recall it, of coming to Hawaii?
Well, I guess I've been to Hawaii at least half a dozen times. The very first time I was there was in 1972 when we were on a flight back to Los Angeles from Japan when Yes went on their first tour of Japan, and we didn't play in Hawaii, but I went to the airport, and I always remember that was back then. That was quite an experience, just being there for a layover. So it was. And then, of course, since then, maybe a dozen times I must have been to the island.
That's great, and yeah. I have the that's a cool memory that it sticks out that much in your mind, just making a quick layover. And you've come, I'm assuming, in addition to some professional visits, which I have highlights of thanks to a loyal listener we'll go over in a second. In addition to those, have you made personal visits, I'm assuming?
Oh, yeah. I've done vacations in Maui and Kauai and Oahu, of course. I've spent quite a bit of time there. I actually have never been to the Big Island, but I think I'm going to go and spend some time there after our shows.
Good for you.
So I'm planning on that.
You should take in the Hilo side while you're there, at least, if I can recommend. The volcano has been somewhat active recently in making some stuff worth taking a look at. It makes it quite a visual.
Yeah, I've been up to is it the volcano on Maui?
That's Haleakala. It's not active, but it is a volcano and a...
Yeah. No, I've been on the 2 a.m. bike ride down the hill from that mountain.
You did the bike ride, huh?
Yeah, well, the great thing is it's all downhill.
Well, they don't do that for safety purposes, so you sort of lucked out. That's a tradition that has kind of come and gone.
Oh, really? It's died out now. Yeah, I guess it was at least 10 years ago that I did that.
Well, you're a trailblazer, and that's a great experience. You got more guts than me, because I would not have gone down that thing. That sounds scary, going down that, man.
Yeah, it was. I remember I kept thinking, this is weird. And, of course, you're leaving at some crazy time, dawn or something, and it's freezing cold up there. So by the time you get to the bottom of the hill, you've removed about 6 layers of clothing.
Right.
But I always remember it. It was fun.
Well, you have, in addition to some fun personal visits like that, my loyal listener, Steve, the mystery emailer, has pointed out that he thinks the first Yes concert, and he could be wrong, this is just a general guess here on his part, so be merciful if your memory tells a different story, but he's thinking the first Yes concert in Honolulu was not until March 30th of 1988. Is that possible, Chris?
That is very possible. 88. That sounds about right. Big Generators tour.
Exactly.
I'm surprised we didn't play there on the 90125 tour, but I guess that would have been more around 84.
And he notes that visit on the Big Generator tour, as you said, had a Chirs Squire bass solo on Amazing Grace that, quote, blew everyone away.
Okay, yeah. I remember that.
Which is cool. And another appearance, of course, which is really one that I was hoping you had some memories of, just because it was a little bit more contemporary, and also not just because it's more recent, but because it was unusual. You guys played here in September 2003 with the symphony at the Blaisdell Arena.
Yeah, and I think we played again about a year after that, maybe. On our way back from Japan, I remember playing at the arena too, downtown in Oahu. So, yeah, but I remember doing it with the symphony.
How much of a when you think about yourself, you have such a nasty sound. I was sitting last night listening to Heart of the Sunrise, and Yours Is No Disgrace, Starship Trooper, just having my mind blown again by the stuff that you do. And when you think of playing with the symphony and it being the classical kind of thing, how much are you familiar with classical? How much is it a passion, or how much is that required to do what you did with the band?
Well, we just wanted to, I guess both John Anderson and myself were classical music fans anyway, and that was part of the blueprint of the band when we first formed it, and that we wanted to, a band that was, could play rock and roll, but we wanted to be able to play, a slightly more advanced form of rock and roll, and which embodied some of the values that in classical music. So we were big Stravinsky fans, and mainly Stravinsky, but lots of other composers as well. We shared a love of that music, so we built that into the Yes approach to life, really, and it stayed with us. And then right early on our second album, Time and a Word, we worked with the orchestra, and then it came, around to doing Magnification, and we did it with the orchestra again.
Was there anything that stood out about the experience here? How did our orchestra compare with the many fine musicians you've done?
That's getting a bit. I can't remember that much detail. I don't remember it being a problem.
There you go. No doubt. Yeah. I like that. I always check, because you never know. Sometimes, believe me, brother, I understand how it's hard to remember. You had a long life and a lot of concerts, but sometimes...
and a lot of different orchestras in that year.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think the Hawaiian guys did a good job, I'm sure.
No, that's cool. I always just check. Like I said, just in case there was a weird incident or something that made it stick out in your mind. You never know what might be there. When you think of your personal life, so many people are fans of the sounds that you made. How much credit does, when you look at going back now from where you stand, how much credit does St. Andrew's Church Choir get for starting the musical direction of the son of a taxi driver?
Yeah, that is funny because I was real lucky in that, I was just a kid then, but I had, the great Barry Rose came to my little church choir, and he later went on to become the organist and choirmaster at St. Paul's Cathedral for the Charles and Di wedding, and he was a rising star in church music, and I was really fortunate that he was my educator in that field, and he was a pretty cool guy too for a church guy, and he liked some rock and roll as well, so it was a good education for me.
And I guess that gets balanced with your love of the Beatles causing your descent into hedonism, your suspension from school in 1964 due to long hair that was Beatle-inspired?
That was, exactly. That did happen.
And do you remember that now? You can see that as like a point when you began to be a rebel, maybe?
Well, I guess. It was... the head of the school was a bit of a gritty because he knew we were breaking up for the summer break, and of course we've been growing our hair, hoping it wouldn't get noticed. It was too long, and so we could have it long for the whole summer. And it was the day before the last day of school, and he called us into his office and said, okay. You two guys need to get your hair cut. And we said, well, we'd love to, but we just don't have any cash. And he put his hand in his pocket and pulled out his own money and gave it to us. And I remember my buddy and I walked out of his office and looked at the money and, and we went, okay, let's go to the music store. And I never went back.
I love it. Yeah. That is good. And did you ever, is that a case where years later, because you've gotten to meet so many cats and perform and work with a lot of cats probably that you admired, did you get to hook up with those dudes and ever sort of, get the personal thrill of interacting with them in a way that you can recall?
Well, who are you talking about?
The Beatles guys. Over the course of your life as a pro, were there Beatle encounters that you can say, wow, I'm really glad I got to do this or that with one of those dudes?
Oh, yeah, no, I met all of them. And had quite extensive talks with George, actually. And I used to go around to Ringo's house quite a bit because we both had studios in our country homes, and we'd always be sharing studio gear and stuff. I'd see him occasionally. And I met John Lennon once at the Apple offices. Chatted to him. And McCartney I met 2 or 3 times, yeah. So, yeah, interesting guys.
It's got to be rewarding for you. And I just imagine that you and the influence that they must have had, getting to come back and, through your life, that's neat. You can say you met them all, dude. Check that off the list. Been there, done
that. Yeah.
As a final...
The most interesting meeting was the first time I saw George was at a kid's birthday party, and his publicist was having the kids' party, and I guess he was there with a kid, and I had some kids there, and I always remember he started off the conversation with me because he knew, I guess his buddy had told him that Yes was successful, and so he said, so he turned to me, he said, so can you tell me what's going on in the music business? I thought that was the oddest question to get from George Harrison, but that's how we started the conversation.
Do you remember what you told him?
I said, I think I said, you're the last person I expected to ask me a question like that. I thought you owned the music business.
That is a quality story, brother Chris. I high five you for sharing that memory, dude. That's what doing an interview is all about.
Do this here.
Well, thank you, brother Chris. I appreciate you doing this, and I look forward to seeing you cats when you get to town.
Nice talking to you.
You too, brother. Bye.